CTV News at 6 with Joe Perkins.
Good evening. Thank you for being here. We begin tonight with a developing story. At least 9 people are dead, several others injured after a bus crash on an icy stretch of highway in Oregon. It happened around 10:30 this morning, but this afternoon, investigators confirmed the bus was en route to Vancouver. The victims' names are not being released. The bus, which is reportedly owned by a Vancouver-based tour company, was en route from Las Vegas when it careened through a guardrail along an icy stretch of highway, traveling several hundred feet down a steep embankment. About 20 people were also injured in the crash. Originally, it was believed 5 people had died. Now it is 9. Again, the names of the victims are not being released. We will have more on this story when it becomes available. Back on the island, several people are recovering from a backyard brawl that left one man with stab wounds and several others needing medical attention. Police were called to a cul-de-sac on Atiun Place off Souk Road last night after receiving reports of a fight involving more than 5 men, possibly even 10. When police arrived, they found several people injured, including one man who had been stabbed. Police say a group of young men were socializing in a backyard shed when 2 men in masks forced their way in, demanding money and cell phones from the group. The 7 men inside pushed back, and that's when the fight began. A 24-year-old man was stabbed in the armpit with a knife. RCMP say they have been to the cul-de-sac before and know the house where the men were socializing. Several of the men were treated at the scene. No one has life-threatening injuries. A pellet gun was also found nearby. Police believe the men knew each other and continue to search for 2 suspects. Well, tomorrow night, the Pointy Hats come out, horns in tow for the final party of the year. Big crowds are expected to pour into downtown Victoria for New Year's Eve, and when they do, downtown will be ready. Police, cab companies, restaurants, and hotels are all eagerly awaiting the traffic, hoping to make your final day of the year one you'll remember.
5, 4, 3,
From backstage in New York
1, Happy New Year!
to the streets of downtown Victoria, the excitement is building. New Year's is here, a time for new beginnings and resolutions.
Eat a little healthier,
spend more time with my family,
sleep a little longer,
take better care of my plants,
have a little more fun.
High hopes that will have to wait until after tomorrow night. It's the final hurrah, and police are ready.
This year, we will have a large contingent of members out patrolling the areas to ensure that everyone has a safe and enjoyable evening.
Historically, December 31st is Victoria Police Department's busiest night of the year, and the focus for police will remain where it's been all year, keeping drunk drivers off the streets.
I would just suggest to the public that they be prepared to go through a roadblock if they are going to be driving home.
If you're taking a cab, be patient. If you can't wait, there's always the bus.
Yeah, this could be your one opportunity to give BC Transit a chance. Free transit doesn't get much better than that.
BC Transit is operating at Saturday service levels with free service starting at 6. Some buses will be running into the early hours of the morning. Now, if you don't have plans but think a cocktail out sounds pretty good, your time is running out.
You definitely want to call as soon as possible and ask people what they have left.
Reservations across the city are going fast.
We got our first one in September.
Early planning for a night that deserves it. And while you may still be working on the resolutions,
less drinking, that's not going to happen.
Your New Year's Eve plan might require a little attention too, to ensure that staying in or going out, your final night of 2012 is a night to remember. In the midst of the holiday season, a Campbell River man handed over a large present to 2 bald eagles. The large birds were trapped, tangled in a deathlock in the marshy undergrowth of the freezing Campbell River. Cold, bloody, and locked together, it likely would have been the final scene for the pair. But as CTV's Scott Cunningham reports, their story did not end there. It had another chapter, one caught entirely on video.
An eagle spreads its wings. Then another takes flight. The end of a story, which for a time was being written in the style of a tragedy.
One looked actually frozen, and the other one was making a noise.
Catching a glimpse of a bald eagle on the shores of the Campbell River is common. But what one woman saw last week was not. 2 eagles tangled and trapped in the quickly moving water.
I had a stick with me, but there wasn't anything I could do because they were too far out in the water.
This is where the story's protagonist comes in.
Old Mrs. Hancock
walking down the trail, asked if we'd seen the eagles in the water, which we hadn't yet.
It wouldn't take Ed and his wife long to find the ailing birds and get involved in what would be a miraculous rescue.
If you're there when something happens, a bird, person, whatever, it feels natural. It feels good to do something good, for sure.
Ed waded into the water. Face to face with the wild animals, he released the birds from their cold shackles. The couple had called the Mountain Air Avian Rescue Society. On video, the bird experts tracked down one of the freed eagles. The other, however, had gone deeper into the river. But nothing would stop Ed on his quest to save the feathered creatures.
Got over to the bird and covered it up with his coat and put it between his legs in the canoe and brought it back over to the Mars people, and they took the birds to Comox.
Safe in the care of the Avian Rescue Society,
I think it is a female, actually.
the two massive eagles were nursed back to health. For Ed's heroics, the Rescue Society asked him to be a bird caretaker of sorts in Campbell River.
See, I'm not hoping for any birds to get in trouble, but I'm sure that given some time, something else is going to happen.
A mission he chose to accept after seeing how a seemingly sad story can ultimately end. Scott Cunningham, CTV News, Campbell River.
Back on the South Island, another peaceful protest took over the streets of Greater Victoria today. First Nations people from coast to coast are mobilizing against what they call oppressive government policies. It's the latest in a series of escalating protests targeting Stephen Harper's Conservatives. Hundreds turned out at Uptown Mall today to dance and drum in solidarity with their brothers and sisters nationwide against what they say is the systematic destruction of Indigenous rights. They're fueled by anger over recent omnibus legislation they say tramples on treaty rights and puts the environment at great risk.
The government just can't do what they want to do. And there should be some form of consultation with grassroots people that are trying to impact our way of life.
Today's rally is also in support of Chief Teresa Spence, who continues her politically motivated hunger strike in Ottawa. Today, Spence extended an invitation to politicians to meet with her to discuss the issues that face First Nations people in Canada. The chief is entering her 20th day of fasting. Rallies and flash mobs, such as the one today in Saanich, continue throughout the country in support of the striking chief. Earlier today, drummers, dancers, and others gathered in Toronto's Eaton Centre as well to show their solidarity, I should say, with Spence. Various Idle No More rallies and demonstrations also took place in parts of the U.S.
The list of what Harper is doing to Canada is endless. Closing down the science across the country, muzzling scientists, omnibus bills that have no oversight from anybody except himself. It's just endless.
As the rallies continue, a former prime minister says he's worried Canada and First Nations are headed in a dangerous direction. Joe Clark met yesterday with Chief Spence. Clark says in a statement, "My experience has been that direct and honest dialogue is always useful and sometimes essential, particularly in dealing with issues as complex and multifaceted as the relations between First Nations and Canada." Chief Spence expressed a humble and achievable vision, one which I believe all Canadians can embrace. This is the second largest rally in Victoria in the past 2 weeks.